Well, the curse has struck again. Although, admittedly, the entire film industry was in on it this time. We bring out a film called Conclave, and then 4 months later, we need an actual Conclave. My God. In other news, Oscar voters apparently don't watch movies, and we're stopping that, which is good.
I believe many of them explicitly admitted to that
Yeah.
during this past season.
Absolutely.
And somebody from one of the major trades got fired for saying that Sinners underperformed in the second week where it's overperforming. So yeah, there's a lot to discuss, plus your stuff as well, be it in the live chat or being sent in via pigeon, because we're going Valiant style. Yes, because I remember that film exists. Dear God.
Oh, oh my
Uh,
god.
I'm actually. That's AJ. That's Owen. Let's talk some movies, and yeah, I. My God, it's good to see original filmmaking doing well again. That isn't Christopher Nolan. I
I
don't
mean, we
think.
can talk about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing it's going to be an upcoming review if it hasn't already come out from you, AJ.
I was just getting ready to say I'm not sure how much I can say right now because if I talk in depth about Sinners right now, I'm gonna feel less inclined to do that video, which
Yeah,
I haven't done yet. So I'll probably have to be quiet in the meantime. But
I think the TLDR with it though is it had the hype with the trailers, which obviously I know AJ doesn't watch, but the fact that it's delivered and it's doing well is great to see. It'll be interesting to see how it falls into the rest of the stuff. Considering I feel Warner Brothers didn't want to promote it that much because they've got too much of a bloody chicken jockey, if you will, with the bloody Minecraft movie. Who apparently the director is happy for people to trash bloody cinemas.
You literally could have just released that movie with no buzz and no fanfare, and it still would have found an audience.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that about every movie.
I don't know if this topic has been brought up as far as Sinners goes yet, but are we concerned about it pulling what Wicked did? Because that wouldn't be good in regards to, oh, this is really crushing it in theaters, and then it's like, oh, let's go ahead and do a digital release or put it on streaming way too early and kind of kill that theater run. I would hope they're not going to do that because that would kind of the real buzz of this movie has become how successful it is theatrically, and I would hate to see them shoot themselves in the foot while they're like in the middle of it.
I
I
know
watched it.
some markets haven't really enjoyed it because the one that I saw, which was an interesting bit, India had it in an IMAX screen, which is probably one of the ways that you should watch it, sort of thing. But they replaced it with a non IMAX movie, but on an IMAX screen. My only guess is there's probably a lot of Bollywood films that are probably more successful and will get more people in. So if the IMAX screens are the bigger seated ones, they're going to probably just stick it in there. That's my only logic to that sort of thing. Because obviously, with it being around sort of Eid and the end of Ramadan and everything, there's been quite a few Asian releases and Indian releases that have been out in my local cinema, which rarely shows that sort of stuff over the last few weeks. Obviously, catering to the market, sort of thing. But yeah, it's just the amount of showings that a Minecraft movie's getting still. I don't know how full they are, And yet I hear a lot of good buzz for Thunderbolts, and it's getting a lot of good reviews from, like, not just, it's not a Snow White where it's only the Disney people that are saying it's really good and everybody else crapping on it. It's like actual critics saying, no, it's good. And yet I go to my local cinema's page for pre-orders, and there's nobody there. Which I feel that has been the epitome of Phase 5. Nobody showed up, maybe apart from Deadpool and Wolverine. Because I'm trying to remember, we got Quantum Mania, which was not as good as it should have been. Guardians, which delivered, but I don't think people were that interested in seeing it. The Marvels, which I completely forgot happened. So that shows you how well that did. Deadpool and Wolverine, which wasn't even considered any sort of phase of the Marvel thing until it became the most successful bit within Phase 5, and then they changed their mind. And then Captain America, which literally gave away the last 20 minutes of the movie in every single bloody trailer. Great job, guys.
I mean, if you think about it, really the poster even kind of gave it away.
Yeah. As I say, every single bit of media practically gave away the last 20 minutes.
I'd actually forgotten even when the Marvels came out, because I actually didn't see. This is how long I waited for the Marvels. I borrowed the DVD for the Marvels from the library. That's when I finally saw it. So I don't even remember when it came out.
Oh, let's have a quick check. Because I was interested to see where, I go to the Wikipedia to find the Rotten Tomatoes because it's less clicks. And then I was like, wait, the Marvels came out? November 2023, so about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, the Thunderbolts marketing approach. I don't know whether you've seen any of the stuff on social media, AJ. They're
Not
pretty
really.
much saying they're just trying to highlight everything indie that they've done. So it's like from the star of Lady Macbeth, and I'm trying to think what indie thing Harbour would have been in. But it's from the cinematographer of like indie film. From the director of Robot and Frank.
Harbor goes back to at least Brokeback, if they wanted to use that.
I don't know whether they used. I think they used. I don't think they used Apprentice, but they used. What was the other thing Stan was in this year? Balls, I've forgotten. Different Man. Highlighting that. And then what's the other thing that I saw? Yeah, the fact that the score is from Son Lux. So they're saying from the people that did the soundtrack to that film that I can't mention because Owen will come out in hives. But yeah, they're basically trying to, weirdly, considering how this entire bloody phase has practically been put an indie person in charge of the film and then, let them burn on the ship as it goes down. This time they're actually weighing into it, and it actually seems to be working. So maybe they just need more confidence and, get a better PR person.
Yeah, I'm still because I used to be one of those people that was really forgiving of anything Marvel because I was so invested in that. And now I am at a place where I want to feel positive about this, but I'm still at the I'll just wait till I see it thing to know if this is real or not.
And the thing that probably doesn't help is at the same time while all that advertising's happening, we get a 3-hour long stream of some aircraft hangar with a bunch of chairs that's just listing all the people that they're naming so far for Avengers Doomsday. It's like, okay, so we're doing both, I guess. The fact as well that I guess Florence Pugh might be the next Tom Cruise. In that the stunt you see at the start of the film where she jumps off the building, she actually did. Admittedly, she only fell like 10 foot and she was on wires. But it was done in such a way that, no, she was literally on top of whatever it was, I don't know if it was the Burj, or I don't think it was the Burj, but it's one of the, like, one of the tallest buildings in the world sort of thing. And she actually did it. And she basically said to Kevin Feige, let me do it. Which, it's... Yeah, Marvel was reluctant to allow her to perform the stunt for insurance reasons, but after continually pushing it to Feige, she was allowed to perform the jump. Yeah, so it's the Merdeka 118 skyscraper, which is roughly 680 meters tall, so it's the second tallest building in the world. Which, I wonder whether they're doing that because of the symbolism of when we last saw a Romanov fall from that far a distance in Endgame. Or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I mentioned it in the intro and whatever, but yeah, the fact that Oscar's now enforcing the rules for people to only be allowed to vote in their category if they've seen all the nominees. Why is it taking this long?
But Owen and I were having a conversation the other day about wondering if we'll actually maybe see like a difference. Like if there's more of a chance for like underdog movies to kind of. Oh, and the example you used was Coda.
Coda is a really great example, especially given the fact that right now, my absolute favorite movie of the year could easily be the Coda of this year.
It's not impossible.
No, it's not.
It's interesting that we are seeing, just as these like Oscar rules are like, all this Oscar news is coming out, that contenders are already starting to surface this early. More than one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, something I want to briefly mention, because I just noticed it by at least trying to get some of the details off Variety for like stuff we can discuss before we get into chat and whatever while it's populating a bit. We have Hunger Games news in that Jesse Plemons is playing Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It's about time it happened. Believe me.
It fits.
I love it. I love that once that news came out, it's like, oh, people finally remember that he already played his kid in The Master.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people forgot about that because Plemons wasn't big at the time, or where he is now.
The first thing, at least in chat that I can see, Bry asking us our thoughts on the Cannes lineup.
There's some really exciting stuff in there.
Yeah,
I feel like this is a more recognizable group of directors than usual.
To some extent, yeah, because we've got Julia Ducournau's new film after, I think her last one was
Titan, I think.
Titan, but then also Raw as well, which I enjoyed. Lynn Ramsey's back with Die My Love. Ari Aster's Eddington. So who knows what that'll be. Kelly Reichardt's back with The Mastermind. Wes Anderson's in competition as well with The Phoenician Scheme, which I'm glad to see it's now been changed to espionage black comedy. Because at first it was like espionage thriller, and I was like, oh wait, he's not doing it comedic, and then having seen the trailer, oh no, it's comedic.
I didn't believe for a second we'd have a Wes Anderson movie with no comedy in it.
Yeah.
There was no way.
We've also got Trier's new movie, Linklater's Nouvelle Vague as well. There's
I'm
a lot
really
of big
excited
names,
about.
so wait for it to be somebody that we don't know or somebody that I didn't mention.
I'm really interested which Linklater we're getting, because he's been in this making of territory before with me and Orson Welles. But I really like me and Orson Welles, but I know it's kind of seen as oh, I forgot that was one of his. But I'm wondering if this one will be. I don't know, I'm just really curious what this one's going to be like, and if it's sort of more a little less slight than me and Orson Welles is, I guess you could say. I'm not sure, but either way, I'm excited. Even slight Linklater is amazing. So
I also notice as well, considering how much I loved it a few years back, Oliver Hermanus, who did Living a few years back,
yeah,
doing the history of sound as well with Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal and Chris Cooper. He's still around, everybody. Yes, we haven't had enough Chris Cooper in our lives for a while. Yes.
the one I was also looking at was the guy that did Neighboring Sounds. I think The Secret Agent is his.
Oh, Kleber Mendonça Filho. Yeah.
I could see that one either being one of those ones that goes into obscurity and we hardly ever hear about again, or he could like win the palm. I feel like that one could go either one.
Yeah. Then of course there's also some interesting stuff on the underside, as in The Uncertain Regard has got the directorial debuts of Harris Dickinson and Kristen Stewart and Scarlett Johansson.
I had no idea Harris Dickinson was making a movie.
Yeah, Urchin. Written and directed by him, with Frank Delane as a drifter struggling with integrating into society. Although apparently it is a BBC film, so it'll probably be on BBC in about 12 months. Knowing how they usually try and show newish British films in and around awards time, like they did last year and this year. Can't remember what it was this year off the top of my head.
Yeah, Harris Dickinson's had a really big couple of years just now, or a few years now.
And then, of course, out of competition, we've got the Mission Impossible premiere. And how that ends.
At almost 3 hours long.
Allegedly,
we'll
yeah. No runtime has officially been listed yet. But we'll have to find out at some point, because Cam will have to do a program that says how long it is. So.
I think it's official at 2:49.
Okay.
And I'm a little concerned because I did think Dead Reckoning was too long. So we'll see if this.
Then again, if this is endgaming it and we're actually sort of having Tom Cruise leave the franchise and basically do other franchises or other stuff.
I'm counting the days and minutes and seconds for that Inarritu movie.
And then also, yeah, Heist to Lois. Spike Lee is back. Although I don't know whether we need an English language remake of High and Low, but there you go.
Well, everybody immediately points to Old Boy when they hear that Spike Lee has remade another foreign movie. But I'm really fucking psyched about this, actually. Because first of all, it's him and Denzel doing another heist movie, and Inside Man is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine they're going their own way enough to where it's probably going to feel like two different movies. in a good way, I think.
Yeah, because I'm trying to remember whether was he involved with the script for Old Boy or not. No, so it's this. It's in that respect, it's the same. It's not a Spike Lee. It'll be listed as a Spike Lee joint, but it's not something that Spike's had a vision with really on the screenplay side of things.
Yeah, I think to my understanding, Old Boy's the only movie is Old Boy the only movie he's had a Spike Lee joint taken off of. I think.
I'm not sure.
I don't imagine we're gonna get that. I feel like this is gonna be something really good. So I'm really hyped for this.
Oh, and we've also got Ethan Cohen's Honey Don't, the second part of the quote-unquote lesbian B movie trilogy. It's officially a thing. But then again, with a cast with Margaret Qualley and Aubrey Plaza and Chris Evans and Charlie Day and Billy Eichner, it's got a good cast. So.
I know Driveway Dolls is okay, I guess, but when Joel Cohen has another solo movie, please give me a call. I can get my ticket before he's even turned the cameras on.
I don't think there's. Oh no, we've got Andrew Dominic's Bono documentary as part of the special screenings.
Interesting pivot for him to documentaries after the certain criticisms leveled at Blonde. Like maybe go the total opposite direction.
Well, I do find it interesting that there's nothing. Unlike in previous years, there doesn't seem to be anything that is like TV stuff. Because the last few years we've had like so many episodes or the entire series shown at Cannes, rather than anything else. So interesting that there's nothing of that nature by the looks of it this time round.
I was just about to bring up actually. It's unrelated to Cam, but it's related to TV. I don't usually talk about TV stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've made it abundantly clear many times that I just don't really. Me and TV shows just don't stick. Like I'll start them, and even if I like them, I'll just kind of eventually drift out of them through no fault of their own. I just can't stick to TV. With that being said, I started watching The Studio.
I'm surprised to get along.
If anybody isn't that has access to it, that's one of my favorite things I've seen in quite some time. It did not take me long to catch up at all. I didn't realize it was still like it's still in the season. So there's still to like look forward to for like the next 3 weeks or so, and that has me really excited. I figured it'd be something I'd be into, but like I said, sometimes I just drift out of TV. This is my new Barry. This is something I'm gonna actually stick with. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that I just need to heavily recommend that if anybody hasn't jumped on that yet.
I think that's fair.
It's one of those ones too to where it's like I'm surprised they were allowed to make this. Not just because of its portrayal of Hollywood, but like I feel like five people are gonna get what's funny about this. And I'm glad when we get stuff like that.
I've already got that set for later on. Bride also said the last 2000 movies I've watched since the last Popcast: Murder on a Sunday Morning, Born into Brothels, Calcutta's Red Light Kids, In the Loop, The Man Without a Past, Trouble the Water, and The Class. I feel it's interesting because I haven't seen it, but a lot of the critics were saying, Anucci's stage adaptation of Doctor Strangelove is sort of, you know, weirdly timed so perfect.
Hmm.
In the Loop just feels like it will never age because you just know that there's those sorts of people that are still incompetent behind the scenes, whether it be at the White House or 10 Downing Street or something like that.
I sort of feel like it'll be like when you say Doctor Strangelove is one of those things that doesn't need to be updated or changed or anything. It kind of gives me vibes of when Sorkin updated To Kill a Mockingbird and managed to make it like super, like even more relevant than it already was. I can like an inter Doctor Strangelove. God, I just fell over my words there. An energy Doctor Strangelove is something I'm all on board for.
the fact
It's
that
it's like they were made for each other.
the fact that again, something I didn't get to see because they never filmed it for release because the idea is that the stage adaptation they want to try and adapt into a movie if it gets round. But Cranston's performance in Network, where it was basically like a 24/7 sort of news style, the one scene they literally go out, they went outside the building and filmed with a live camera just outside with people just literally walking by, unaware that they're in a theatre production. Like, that's how crazy that got. Yeah, the reason why that's never seen the light of day is, as I say, they're trying to ship it around and try and get somebody to pick it up and turn it into. To some extent, I could probably see it as well successful as a mini series because I think you could spin out a lot of it rather than just being sort of a two and a bit hour sort of shrunk down version like the play is. You could go into more of it. Josie says, "Hey Popcast team, my mum's sick today, so I'm taking care of her." Brian then says, "I'm my final week of my Oscar movie marathon. My recap will be in the next Hangout. I've got 6 Best Picture nominees left to watch." Also reading a book I purchased called Bright and Shiny Volume 1, which is a history of animation at award shows. Does it include Del Toro saying, "This is not for kids"? Oh, Josie's saying, "Today I watched Chris McQuarrie's Way of the Gun." AJ, have you seen it and your thoughts on it?
Of course, I've seen it. I've seen it many times.
I'm trying to remember which one that is.
That's the one where well, I probably can't say it. The first thing I wanted to do was jump to Ryan Phillippe's line to Sarah Silverman, but the one with
Oh,
where
right.
Juliette Lewis is like the surrogate and Ryan Phillippe and Benicio and
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. His debut work.
yeah, it's
Following
a
on from, I guess,
brutal
technically The Usual Suspects.
yeah,
No, it
it's a
actually would
brutal
be.
movie.
Yeah.
I don't think I liked it the first time I saw it because I feel like that's a movie where if you see it for the first time and you're not prepared for it, it's very off-putting. But when you do know so I've seen it a few times since, and yeah, I'm definitely into it. But it's mainly known for that opening scene with Sarah Silverman and Brian Phillippe's interaction with her. But the whole thing is great. Like I said, if it gets its hooks in you, you'll be into it. But it could also kind of skeeve you out a little bit too.
Yeah, like looking
The
at what.
climax in particular. I've talked about birth scenes in movies and how unappealing they are most of the time. That's probably one of the craziest and most hectic in an effective way. So, yeah.
Looking at it, like Macquarie's done a lot of good, and then there was like that spell in the 2010s, at least writing wise, that Edge of Tomorrow was great, but Tourist I felt was kind of hit or miss. Valkyrie wasn't brilliant. It was okay. Jack the Giant Slayer, I completely forgot that existed. And then the other one that I can't forget existed is the Bloomin' Mummy. But then at the same time, he also wrote Top Gear Maverick, so do we forgive him?
I was gonna say, with the exception of Valkyrie, I forgot he had writing credits on those.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy as well that he did Way of the Gun, and we didn't see him in the director's chair until Jack Reacher, and then literally just exclusively Mission Impossible for the past 4 films. When you feel like he could probably do more, but he's literally just sticking to the one franchise.
There's times, I think it's just because he's so connected to Cruise at this point. There's times where I have to remind myself that Doug Liman is the one that did Edge of Tomorrow and not him, director-wise.
And then, God, I forget. What a great name for a director for a tourist. Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck. Who I don't think has done anything since, at least of note.
His name is familiar.
Oh, he did Never Look Away, but again, that's a German thing. And he did The Lives of Others.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure he did The Lives of Others. Like, no way, the same guy would do The Taurus. That's not right.
Yeah, fell in the middle of them. Hasn't done anything since 2018. He's been attached to stuff. Like, there's a thing there saying he's set to direct the psychological thriller Vent for Alcon Entertainment. But that's a source from about maybe 2 and a bit years ago. No, 3 years ago. Sorry, I miscounted. Dear Lord.
Oh, speaking of Edge of Tomorrow, you'll see that I had to put my beloved Emily Blunt posters in a safe place because I have another shelf now. So there's been a whole like rearrangement thing going on. I'm getting more into that Beast Library thing I was hoping to do. So it goes all the way around now. But yeah, those posters are in a very safe place though, because hopefully, I won't be in this corner forever.
Oh, Josie mentioning Florence Pugh's dating Finn Cole. She's a Capricorn and he's a Scorpio. Bry is mentioning your thoughts on July's Criterion lineup. Which is, for those of you who don't know, the 4K remaster, I guess, of Barry Lyndon. They're packaging up Antoine Doinel's Adventures, as it's called. Basically, it's Truffaut's 400 Blows, Anton and Quillette, Stolen Kisses, Bed and Board, and Love on the Run. All as a bundle. The Janus release of All We Imagine Is Light from Payal Kapadia. And then the 2 new entries to the Criterion Collection. Mike Nichols' Carnal Knowledge, which I think was that was Nichols' follow-up after Graduate, wasn't it?
I think it's 68 or 69.
Because Carnal's listed on here as 71. And
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm trying to think, would it be 67 or 60? I'm getting confused because I think it might have released over here in 68, but it might have been 67 for you guys. No, Catch-22 fell in between them. So they're not back to back. But yeah, that's getting newly added to the Criterion Collection, and then also Kenneth Longren's You Can Count on Me.
For some reason, I'm really psyched about that one. Now I remember that being the because I remember there was Ruffalo's mid-2000s romantic comedy period. And so that's, with the exception of Collateral, weirdly in between, it was like, oh, that's Ruffalo's thing. That's what he does. And then you're introduced to You Can Count on Me, and it's like, oh no, this is actually what he does. This is where he came from. Remember, the comedies kind of came a little later. He's like a McConaughey. He's like his own McConaughey. Where it's like, oh, McConaughey's the, romantic comedy guy. It's like, oh, but now he's doing this stuff. Did anybody see Lone Star back in the mid-90s? Like, that's like the same Ruffalo.
I feel kind of a fair point. Oh, Bry said if you're wondering because of what's going on in the real world, I will be watching Conclave on Thursday. Even though the upcoming Conclave will not happen till after the 9-day mourning period. At the same time, I don't know. Normally, the mourning period happens, and then whoever it is that's basically not Ray Fiennes gets on the phone and starts calling everybody up saying, right, we need you in, sort of thing. To some extent, it is weirdly, by seeing it depicted in a or a semi-accurate way, I guess you want to call it that, given that all the political shenanigans that we saw in that, the fact that this could be like one of the more interesting political, if you want to say that the Catholic Church is political, but like, everyone saying, oh, it should be an African person, or it should be the fact that I think a quarter of what might be the conclave could be comprising of Asian countries could be an interesting way that spins out. Thankfully, we know it won't be the longest conclave ever because they brought. It's sort of like with Wimbledon when that tennis match went on for way too long and they brought in rules to stop it. Apparently, the longest one in like the 12th century went 2.5 years. So, I wish I was joking.
With all due respect to Brian, I'm assuming when he does his previous award season ranking, we're going to kind of rush through that to not relive this past season. We're at the point now. I think starting this week, I have to start dreading Criterion Closet videos in case somebody picks it up.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Josie mentioning that Eddington is going to release 3 days after Ari's birthday. Because his birthday's on the 15th, with Eddington tentatively set for a release on the 18th of July. With Josie planning to see it around her birthday.
I think I did mention, didn't I, how psyched I am about Ari Aster doing a COVID era movie. That's gonna. I'm still not quite sure what all Eddington is, but I'm really psyched about it, whatever it may be.
If it's something that isn't horror, then you know something's gone wrong. There's gonna be something crazy about it. Yeah, Josie also saying, I'm so glad to see Michael Cera back in things. Can't wait to see him in the Phoenician Scheme. To some extent, is this kind of his return to sort of on-screen stuff? Because the last I remember of him was that bloody animated, like, Paws... Was it like Paws of Fury or whatever the hell it was?
There was Barbie.
Oh, yeah. And he has a bit in, Dream Scenario as well?
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen... Then again, if we're getting him in that and the Running Man this year, the Phoenician Scheme and the Running Man, we're getting
Sacramento.
off. I feel we're getting off.
Don't forget Sacramento.
Oh, yeah.
It literally was like a month ago.
Was it? I thought it was even sooner
than that. If that ever gets released over here, maybe.
It was literally this month.
Yeah, I don't know whether
I know because it lasted a week, and I watched it while it was there.
Hang on, I'm gonna have to look at the to see whether it's even coming out here. Well, the fact that I've typed SAC and it's not listed. To be confirmed as to whether I'll be able to watch that.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of those things where, like, like there was his scene in Twin Peaks where it was like, oh my god, I didn't even realize how much I needed the collaboration of Michael Cera and Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the opposite of that, where it's like, why did it take him and Wes Anderson this long to cross paths? This is going to be incredible.
I'm guessing Josie's I love the studio so far is probably talking about Warner Brothers. I don't know. Josie saying I want Continental to greenlight the Steven Soderbergh 10 Little Rubber Duckies movie I brought up in our previous adaptation games. And a Julia Ducournau Very Hungry Caterpillar movie. Yeah.
There's a lot of those Josie scenarios that I could see the studio bringing up.
Oh, Bryce says the first volume of the book thing is going from the beginning years of the animated short category all the way up to when Lion King got snubbed for Best Picture.
I didn't know that was considered a snub at the time. That's interesting. Well, I guess that would have been pretty relatively fresh off of Beauty and the Beast, only 3 years. I remember, wasn't it Gene Siskel that was campaigning to get Robin Williams nominated for Aladdin?
I think so.
That sounds about right.
Oh, Bryce said Josie to Bryce said I love the man without a past and Stardust. Problem is I don't know which Stardust you're talking about. Because the one that works for me is the David Essex follow-up to That'll Be the Day. Where they literally went, yeah, the guy's having a drug overdose and we're killing him off at the end. Like the most realistic, like, music adaptation at that point where it's like, yeah, he died of a drug overdose. He's off his rock. Like, no sort of happy-go-lucky ending. Then again, we were in the 70s, so... Oh, Josie.
I can't.
Oh, go ahead, AJ.
As far as Man Without a Past, I can't decide if I like that director or not. Because isn't he the same director that made Ariel back in the 80s? And I haven't taken to his movies as much as I have Ariel, but I think it's also because Ariel feels so much like a Jarmusch movie to me. But because I love that movie so much, I can't tell if I love that director in particular or if it was just because he gave me the Jarmusch vibes once. But I've always had an interesting reaction to him otherwise. So he's somebody that's always been kind of I've never been sure how I feel about him exactly for his whole run, but Ariel's something that I really, really love though.
Josie's saying Jack and the Giant Slayer, the ultimate laundromat movie. I remember it being played at the laundromat one day. I brought it up on a previous podcast, and AJ said that's where it belongs.
Makes sense. I totally believe that I said that.
Some songs on the radio today. Take a Picture by Filter, 100 Years by Five for Fighting, Right Here, Right Now by Jesus Jones. Again, when I see Right Here, Right Now, I don't think of Jesus Jones's version. Sure. I think of the Fatboy Slim. No, it is Fatboy Slim. I was getting that confused. It's like, is it the him or is it Chemical Brothers? Because
the one with the soundbite of Angela Bassett in Strange Days.
I just remember the baby becoming a fat fuck and then like dying. I just remember the video. Thanks. I want to say it's Spike Jonze, or if I've got two I got them from the one I got from a charity shop that's right next to a bloody household this waste site. Bloody one box set of like the music videos of Gondry and the other of the music videos of Spike Jonze. Like, It was that close to getting thrown in the household waste, and it's like, but this is fucking awesome. Also, Your Wildest Dreams by the Moody Blues, Radar Love by Golden Earring. It's annoying that every time I hear that, I just think of Baby Driver, and then I get disappointed. God damn it, Kevin. Bryce says, I guess, in terms of covering the films, depending on how I view that movie. And that movie is capitalized. Josie says, normally I'd be irksome over a COVID era film, but I trust Ari Aster with such because of his bluntly dark humour. Another fictional...
I feel like it's probably just going to be more of the setting than, like, delving into it specifically, is what it feels like.
Yeah, the fact that it, like, is just listed as contemporary Western, I'm kind of just feeling like, is this now Aster's retort to basically Yellowstone? Saying it doesn't have to be, let's say, politically leaning in one direction. Also, that poster is freaking amazing. Although kind of scary that with 3 bison are literally just willing to just fall to their deaths. Like, what the hell?
Isn't that like a pre-existing like piece of art or something?
I think so. Because
Like
it is that, and then, in a clever tagline, to be fair, hindsight is 2020. And the fact that he's been wanting to make it even before Hereditary happened, it means it might actually be something different. Josie says another fictional children's adaptation book of Continental Greenlight is the Safdie brothers' Mr. Walker Steps Out, the one about the walking man and the traffic box. Also, Jimmy Buffett's children books, Trouble Dolls and Jollymon.
It really threw me off when Seth Rogen pronounced Safdie as like Softy. And it's like I can't tell if that was in character or that's the way Seth Rogen says it.
Where's a Jimmy Buffett biopic? That's totally something that Continental could greenlight. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else of note. I'm keeping an eye in case, like, we suddenly get breaking news of significance. But yeah, I think, Bryce put the song stuff in for the awards picks for later. So I think if you've got what Josie sent over to you, Owen, we'll go through that first.
Yeah, let me wake up a bit.
Did we there's something that me and Owen have been meaning to talk about in one of these lives, and I can't remember if we did it or not. So bear with me while I try to figure that out.
Fair.
Did we ever talk about the Grand live? We were gonna do that like 3 months ago, and I can't remember if we did or not.
We've mentioned the Grand, but we really haven't like discussed it, like a memoriam to the Grand, I guess, in this case.
Because it's anytime, anywhere in the country, or even I guess the world, when you hear about a movie theater closing, it's just really sad to me.
Right.
And there was a movie theater that Owen and I frequented quite a bit for a while, and then I did fairly as well also once you moved up there, that closed back in January. And it was like an independently owned one, but they mostly had the wide releases, but there were ones there that were like that we didn't get around here, and that's usually how we ended up there. But they also had the Fathom events that we didn't have that showed all the classics. And I was taking account of it. There must have been over 50 of those, over 50 classic screenings I went to that you were probably at. You were probably at most of them, at least from the
Yeah.
2012 to 2017 era or 2016 era. And I mostly made it like they did those for a lot of movies, but I mostly kind of kept it in line with just to narrow it down because it was a bit of a trip there, and Fathom tickets were really ridiculously expensive. Uh, but I mostly stuck to like Oscar movies, like Best Picture nominees or winners and stuff like that.
Sure.
I wish I made a list of all the ones I saw there. I don't have it in front of me or anything, but it's a lot, and a lot of them are like really big. Um, and we were just thinking about how many of those experiences happened there, and pretty recently also, and it was pretty sudden when they announced their closure. It was like they gave it like it was like what, a month or two in advance,
Yeah,
and then it was like it come the first week of January we're gone.
I feel as soon as Athena decided to pivot towards mainstream films,
Yeah.
as well as the indie stuff that we used to watch back in the day, I feel that the days were numbered for the Grand.
Yeah, Athena's done a pretty decent job of going mainstream, but also still getting the smaller releases.
It's weird to see their lineups when I look at it every once in a while. I always pay attention because it comes across my email box still. And it's weird to think that that was the theater we watched so many classic movies, so many independent movies, and now they're showing like Minecraft, which makes no sense to me.
Earlier we just brought Barry Lyndon. We saw Barry Lyndon there.
Oh, Barry Lyndon there, exactly. We saw
They had
The
a whole
Exorcist there. We saw The Godfather there.
Rosemary's Baby.
Yes.
The whole Lynch Fest. There was
He realized he hated Greta Gerwig, so
yeah. They had the Lynch Fest, and they also had the reason we saw Barry Lyndon is because they were doing a Kubrick Fest because we saw Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket also.
yeah, so cool.
No, we didn't make it for 2001, but I also remember like this sucks now. I said I love that theater, but I want a bigger theater for 2001. So we'll see if the Grand ever does it, and the Grand never did it.
Oh.
But one day I'm hoping that 2001 experience happens. But another one I kind of hate missing in retrospect is we didn't go to Dune when they did the Lynch Fest.
Nope.
But we did do the Elephant Man. My brother and I went to Blue Velvet, and you and I went to Mulholland Drive. And one of my favorites is we went to. I think I've mentioned this before too. We saw Lost Highway.
Yes.
And that day we saw Lost Highway in the theater for the Lynch Fest was my first time seeing Lost Highway. And that was really thrilling.
Absolutely.
But that's a small theater. That's a theater that's still going. That's been around for over 100 years. When we went to all those, they had a lot of anniversary screenings for their 100-year anniversary. That was when we saw like All About Eve and Some Like It Hot and The Searchers and all that. I wanted to see Do the Right Thing, but that was when we went out of town that season. But I really wanted to do The Right Thing, but we missed it. The Conversation was in there. We were supposed to see City Lights with a live orchestra, and it got snowed out. That sucked. But
we watched Butch Cassidy in the Grand too.
Yeah, I said the grand list is so long. I don't know if you want us to try to remember it. We could. It would probably take a lot of time. But one I remember that really stood out was The King and I. I tell this story so much because it's crazy how it was like the King and I is so big and shot so big. It was like the room was bigger. We had been in that auditorium so many times because we've been going since we discovered them in 2009.
Right.
And they had some of the stuff that we never got here, like the Oscar stuff we didn't hear. Like we saw The King's Speech and 12 Years a Slave there.
Yep.
And we'd been in that auditorium so many times because the Fathom events were always in the big auditorium.
Of course.
But the big auditorium was relatively, normal sized. But when The King and I opened, I would swear to you the entire room got bigger. That's insane. That really shows the power of making something in that kind of scope. Because we went out of town the other direction to see The Sound of Music,
Right.
which kind of had the same vibe, but I don't know, something. I will always remember the King and I making it seem like it expanded the fucking room.
The sold
Um,
out screening of Casablanca.
that was our first Fathom event. That's when we realized they were a thing.
I've seen that movie 4 times theatrically, and most of them have been here.
And there was To Kill a Mockingbird was sold out. To Kill a Mockingbird was sold out, and we were there as the midnight showing for like Breaking Dawn Part 2 or something was coming in.
That's exactly right. I remember posting
And
on Jenga about that actually after it was over.
was it our second one after Casablanca when Singing in the Rain happened?
There might have
When
been.
it was Singing in the Rain happened early,
Mm-hmm.
and that was something where it's like I know people say that they don't enjoy a lot of reactionary stuff in theaters. This is another thing I think we've talked about before, but
Yeah.
in the spirit of the conversation, we'll say it again. Um, but I don't think I've ever before or since had an experience like when we saw Singing in the Rain at that theater, where everybody it was full. It was completely full.
Yep.
The biggest auditorium. And after every single musical number, there was applause.
Yes.
Like from the whole room. It wasn't like scattered. It wasn't like, oh, some people are doing it, some people are. The whole room would break into applause after every musical number. Except when Gene Kelly did Singing in the Rain and then he walks away. That was silent.
Yep.
And that's one of those movie experiences I'll always remember. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that was maybe one of the first a few times we were there at that theater.
I remember we watched Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws for some reason Jaws was in one of the smaller theaters. We had to go to the other side for Jaws for some reason. But the impact was still there.
Oh yeah.
I remember when I told my friend we were going to see Jaws, the first thing she said was, "I'm so jealous that you get to see that zoom in on a big screen." It's like, yes, it definitely paid off. That was the time I noticed how much I love Richard Dreyfuss, especially in it. Because Roy Scheider's kind of the star, and then Robert Shaw's like the scene stealer. But when we saw it at the theater at that time, that was the first time Quint was giving his big speech, and for some reason, I was drawn to watching Hooper the whole time react to the speech. And it's like, without seeing it on that screen, I don't think I would have thought to watch Hooper during that scene. And it completely changed like how I view the movie and that character. So it's like seeing movies in theaters does matter and can make a total difference. Like I said, the list that we saw is endless. Did I say On the Waterfront already?
I think so.
From Here to Eternity.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Field of Dreams there, which I really liked. That was when it was kind of, I mean, they were getting very small. Like we had the sold out showing of Casablanca, Singing in the Rain, and To Kill a Mockingbird. The Bride of Frankenstein double feature was pretty packed too.
Yeah.
But then there was a time where it was like 2 or 3 people. There were times where we were the only one there. The Maltese Falcon, I think we were the only ones.
Yes.
On the Waterfront, we were the only ones. Butch Cassidy, I think we were the only ones.
Yes.
And there was the last one I saw right before COVID hit in February of 2020 was The Color Purple.
Nice.
It had like a few scattered people, and then especially any time after that, it was like hardly anybody there. There was a few people in Field of Dreams, and the one thing I remembered was the people sitting in front of me were a mom and her 2 kids. Now it's like, I really hope that I can imagine this being a core memory for those kids of going to a theater with just their mom. Maybe I'm jumping the gun to presume it's a single mom that's like maybe really struggling to take care of them or something. This is just the story I make in my head. I don't know. And seeing a movie, even though Field of Dreams is a very dad-focused movie, I can just imagine that moment had to be a core memory for them. That's something that I always take away from that. Um, stuff that I saw since you moved was stuff like The Quiet Man and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Nice.
In the Heat of the Night, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? It was like the list is in West Side Story. Experience has had in that theater, and it's just so weird that it's like an empty building now. And it was one of those. It was a flawed building too.
Yeah, it was.
They had like holes in the ceilings and stuff like that. The exits were kind of confusing in a couple of the auditoriums. um, but God, there's so many experiences there, and like I said, it's so crazy to think that there's just blackness in there now. I was trying to remember the last thing I saw there. For the longest time, I kept thinking it was Tar,
Mm.
but I forgot. I went there with my mom to see Dead Reckoning, the latest Mission Impossible movie. So Dead Reckoning is the last thing I saw at the Grand, actually. Interestingly enough, which Tom Cruise I'm sure would be thrilled about because he's all about the theater experience. So it's like, hey, well, the last thing I saw at this particular theater was a theatrical experience of that. It's sort of like the last movie I saw at our theater before we switched from projectors to film projectors to all digital was Django. And I feel like Tarantino would be thrilled that if that theater had to have a swan song for film, it was with his movie. And one of his best movies at that. So, but yeah, well, like the whole however much longer this goes, I'm going to be still thinking of, oh, there was this and this and this we saw at the Grand also. But yeah, because the list was just endless. But yeah, anything you want to add to that, Owen?
It was an interesting place. It was great because one of my favorite things I'd like to do is I get off because obviously, if you have not been paying attention for the last almost 12 years we've been doing this, I would state that you would know that I worked in a movie theater for 16 years, and I would clock out of my movie theater job so we could go to the Grand or go to Athena Cinema to watch movies because that's what we did. We had to go to the theaters that had what we needed to see. And it was one of my favorite things is that I used to have regulars that would come in and ask about movies, and most people that work there are like, you might as well have been talking gibberish to them because I have no idea what you're talking about. When you're getting this, when you're getting this, and I just chime in the background like, oh, by the way, it's in Athens. If you want to drive an hour, congratulations. I don't think we're going to get it. I almost guarantee you we're not going to get it. And most of the time, I was right.
There were also times that we'd bounce around where, like, when we did interestingly enough, we did the double feature of Moonlight and La La Land.
Yes.
But we saw Moonlight at the smaller theater, and then we just went down the street to the Grand where we saw La La Land. So it was still like a double feature in that town, but
And
between the two theaters.
speaking of that, if you want to go back to talking about the Grand being where the last experience you saw for before we went all digital was Django. The last digital movie I built before I moved here was La La Land.
Oh,
And I'm very proud of that because it makes perfect sense.
speaking of Django, this was one that I did. I can't remember why you didn't. This is one that I did with my brother, but when Django was coming out in 2012, it was the 20th anniversary of Reservoir Dogs.
I don't know why. It has to. What year was this?
This would have been like the end of 2012.
The only thing I can think of is it was something involving work, potentially. Because the only other thing that possibly would come to mind would have already ended the year prior. So, needless to say, that would not have been the case.
And it's really fun because it was independently owned. It was like the employees were like just other people. So when we saw Reservoir Dogs, there was only like a few scatter people, and we were early. And they played the whole, behind the scenes stuff they were doing beforehand, and then Reservoir Dogs started like half an hour early. and we watched the whole opening diner scene all the way through the opening credits, and then it stopped. And then a guy in pajama pants in the back row got up and walked out of the theater and said, "Don't worry, I work here. I'll figure it out."
Wow, that sounds very familiar.
And it's, well, what sucks is it turned out, I mean, it's Reservoir Dogs, so it's not that terrible, but it was because it started early that they stopped it. So over again, so we had to watch all the behind the scenes stuff all over again and watch the diner scene opening credits all over again. But like I said, it was Reservoir Dogs, so it's not terrible or anything, but and then that same weekend we went back and they played Pulp Fiction 2 days later. So that was I saw Pulp Fiction in that theater. That's and now it's a dark room. That's
God. You can't count how many times I had to bail our theater out of turmoil when I was not even supposed to be there.
I told the story about when I saw Godfather 2, right?
I think we did.
I can't. It was like a theater about an hour out of town or so. I also saw Alien at that theater, and there was a technical issue with Alien also. But the way the Fathom events would work is they would come on, and then they would come on about a half hour early, and then there was a countdown clock that said like your show starts in 30 minutes, and then they do like trivia and stuff like that, and then half an hour later the movie would start. I went to Godfather 2, and it was dark, and it was like 5 minutes till the start time. And then at the start time, it came on and said, "Your show starts in 30 minutes." And I'm not the person that goes out and talks to people, except for the incident that happened in the Bike Riders, which it's been about a year. I guess I can say that now. There was a baby mouse running around in the Bike Riders, and I was the only one that saw it. But that aside, I was like, okay, I got to take care of this. So I went out and I went to the ticket girl that was there, and I was like, they just told us that the show starts in half an hour, and normally I wouldn't say anything, but this movie by itself is 3.5 hours. So it probably needs to start right now. And thankfully it did. I was still a little late though because I didn't realize they were. I did not know, because I'm used to the 2 DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know until I saw Godfather 2 in the theater that it has an intermission. Where it breaks up in the 2 discs on the DVD, there's an intermission in there that I never knew about. Yeah, that was fun. And then we went to IHOP right after, and of course I had cannolis because I had just seen The Godfather 2. I mean, why wouldn't I do that?
It's only fair.
So yeah.
So I didn't know if you had another projection story, or we've told a lot of the.
There's some great projection stories that we've told on here from time to time when xenon bulbs got shattered and someone was promoted to guest, and then
I still feel bad about telling that publicly, and I think I've done it like 2 or 3 times now. But it's a good. I mean, it's a good story. I hope he knows it's right now. In retrospect, it's a good story.
One of the terminology that I never ever wanted to hear was "you on my clock." Whenever I heard the word "you on my clock," and my response generally was, "I have this, and this." Yeah, okay, sure.
It was basically, well, I'm the one that does the reviews, so if you want to go, you can go. Especially some of the stuff that we kind of just walked into, like whatever was going on in Sleepless, the Jamie Foxx movie.
Mm-hmm.
Where I walked in and the lights were on for some reason for the first 15 minutes.
And it's funny because it's not hard to fix that, really isn't. I know this from experience. But when no one's paying attention, it doesn't get fixed. Because there either is 1,000 people that want to tell you that something's wrong, like when you have a superhero movie that's upside down for the first sold out, or no one tells you anything, and when someone actually finally walks the movie, they're like, huh? What?
I just remember this might maybe also is something we've said, sorry, but yeah, the idea of when the employees walk movies to make sure everything is going well or whatever.
Yes.
And I remember our buddy Will, who was on the channel like 12 years ago or something.
Hmm.
Were we the only ones in there
Yes.
when we saw It Follows?
Yes, we were.
It was the scene where, and Will apparently had not seen It Follows.
Shock surprise.
And it just happened to be the scene where the naked guy is standing on the roof.
Yep.
So we watched Will walk into the theater and walk all the way up to the screen as it's lingering on this naked guy on the roof. And we were anticipating his reaction as he came back to us. Which, by the way, I think was simply, there was a naked man on that roof.
Do you realize there's a naked man right there? I think he ducked down and talked to us too. Since we're still the only ones in there, but he still ducked down to talk to us.
Was it him or somebody else that walked to the opening credits of Nocturnal Animals without knowing?
I think it was someone else, but I remember, was it Gates or Davies that did Katy Perry? Because we were the only ones in there watching the 3D version of the movie.
Yeah, it sounds like today it would be the same thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we can't even reminisce without Katy Perry getting digs, but she can't escape it.
No.
Hmm.
We've got Josie stuff to cover up in a little bit. I do want to mention. So I'll throw myself under the bus because it's always fun to do, and I'm sure AJ gets a kick out of it. AJ gave me the Iggy about the rattlesnake in Sinners. It's not very long into the movie. Thank God. And there is a lot of advanced knowledge that it's about to happen.
So I basically wrote that whole scene for you. I hope I didn't miss
Oh,
anything.
no. You just neglected to think about the one minor problem when it comes to me when I'm starting a movie that is kind of a little bit slow to get started.
You fall asleep.
I wasn't asleep, but I wasn't in my right mind. I felt like I was starting to nod off, but I knew I wasn't asleep. And sure enough, the next thing you know, I see this truck and I'm like, I don't realize it's coming because obviously my head is not there.
By the way, let me just say, before you say this, I started my warning at they pick up Sammy at church. I went back.
I don't remember. I was definitely on another plane when this scene happened because I was not really like there.
I was like, they pick up Sammy at church, they drive down a dirt road, they talk for a little bit, then they go off into a field, they part the trees, the truck is there. I gave you the whole set.
Well, I'll just put it this way: when I came to my senses, I believe the words I said out loud was "Jesus Christ," and I shuddered. But luckily, I knew what was going to happen, and I knew what the next piece of dialogue that it was safe to watch. So I shut my eyes and just like shook for a second. And sure enough, I got that last piece of dialogue, and then I was like, "All right, okay, we can go back to the movie now."
It would have been more appropriate and easier to remember because he only said it like a line or two later. But my line that he says to tell you it was safe was going to be when he says "fuck that." But I think I can't remember. I can't remember what line I gave you, but that was like the next line after the last time we see it. But
we should do this next time or something like that. I don't remember the actual words, but I know what you're talking about.
We should set up here or something.
We should set up here for the night. Yeah, that's exactly it.
And then that's when the other Jordan says "fuck that."
So we talked a lot. I don't know how many reviewers. I have not seen. Okay, I watch a couple reviewers specifically because I enjoy their content, and a lot of them I feel about things. A lot of them don't. So there's only two people I watch other than AJ, and I got a review, and I haven't really looked at anything else. But I will state that something immediately came to mind when I found out about what was going on in Sinners, and that would be the From Dusk Till Dawn connection. And I 1,000,000% got that vibe, especially when I was watching the movie, even further when I was watching the movie. So I guess that makes Haley Steinfeld Santanico Pandemonium, apparently. So that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, yes, please, 1,000,000 times, let's make that happen. She's come a long way in a very short amount of time.
15 years. Her life's
a very like sensual movie without having any nudity whatsoever. They did a really good job, and I've been raked over the coals on this channel many times for not liking Black Panther, but I really dug Sinners. And if the year ended right now, it'd probably be, well, there's no, it's probably, it would be in my top 10. The existence of the best movie of the year right now, which I don't see changing anytime soon, aside, because not enough people have seen it, but hopefully we'll rectify that very, very soon. Real quick thoughts on Until Dawn. I mean, I like the concept of the movie. I wish it would have been the actual story from the video game and not just inspired by. I feel like I'm in the minority when I say I enjoyed it, because I did.
It doesn't help as well where the final scene basically teases where the original game happened as well.
Sure, of course. And I watched The Shrouds, which I was extremely bored with. Not what I thought my process would be when it comes to that movie, because that was the last thing I thought I would be in that movie, was bored. But it just drones on and it never ends.
I'm curious because you didn't like Crimes of the Future either. I'm curious where you stand, what past Cronenbergs you've seen.
Probably nothing. Crash.
How you felt about them? There's Crash.
Crash is the only one I probably have seen.
So not the did you see? Maybe you didn't see History of Violence, or did I show you History of Violence once?
I'm talking about Vigo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know you didn't. I know we didn't see it when it came out because we kept making the joke that we forgot William Hurt was at the Oscars.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I showed you it after I fell in love with the History of Violence. I'm pretty sure I showed it to you at one point.
Yeah, History of Violence is really good. That might be the only Cronenberg movie. Well, that and Crash.
Did you miss Eastern Promises?
I never got a chance to see it. No.
Dangerous Method?
No. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think I have seen that.
It's a little forgettable, so it makes sense if you forgot.
Isn't that the movie we saw in Athens?
I think we were going to, but I don't think we ever ended up doing it. We did end up seeing it, obviously.
It was either back at my old place or if it on the computer, or it was in Athens. It could have gone either way.
I think it was around the time the award season was coming that we finally saw it.
Isn't there a scene in like a car where they have a dialogue conversation at like a school parking lot or something? I could be wrong, but
that doesn't sound familiar.
Okay.
To me, I feel it seemed inevitable that it wasn't going to do well, in the fact that it's taken nearly a year for this to actually get released.
Like AJ said, kudos to Cronenberg for still plugging away, and that's a kudo in his own. But it's so boring.
I mean,
I don't want to see Vincent Cassel have sex ever again. No more, ever again. Please don't do that to me again.
But don't go through his filmography, because you'll.
I am not planning on it.
Yeah,
you'll get one.
If somehow there's a Popcast movie club for Irreversible, Owen's going to be mysteriously missing.
No, actually, I probably will be, because I probably wouldn't be, because I've been wanting to see that movie for a long time and I've never seen it or had a reason to watch it.
Considering AJ's facial reaction to it, And it's not. I don't think it's even Kosoge, as in so bad it's good.
I mean, it is interesting to see another movie with like the Memento approach,
Hmm.
but I mean, there's no reason for that scene to be that long. There's no way around that criticism.
That's the only thing I know about that movie. So I mean, but I've not actually seen the scene myself.
If that scene was done like a different way, I think that movie might have a more positive reputation.
That sounds about right.
Because the rest of the movie and the way it's done is fine, but that just makes it ugly in this really unnecessary way.
Especially nowadays, even worse.
Yeah.
Did you manage?
I mean, you can even I'm not even arguing about the scene's existence. It's just the scene's length is unnecessary.
Did you manage to catch Accountant sequel as well?
First off, I've never seen the first movie.
Okay,
So
that kind of is a problem then, because practically everybody and their mother from that first film, bar Kendrick, I think, is in it. So,
And the people that didn't make it out alive, I assume, don't come back.
oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
plus, I
I'm
also
sure,
watching
I'm
Sinners.
sure I'm sure Lithgow can't come back.
I was also watching Sinners too, so my third movie was always going to be something from a previous week. Like this week, I've got Thunderbolts and The Surfer, and I'm waiting to see what the bookings bring for Tuesday, so I can see what my third movie is going to be.
Although, again, I've just realised, fascinatingly, that means Warner Brothers might be 1, 2, and 3 in the UK box office, because Accountant 2 internationally is a Warner Brothers film, not Amazon. So it might be Minecraft, Sinners, an Accountant in some sort of order. Jesus.
Well, I've missed out on a couple of things that are already gone, so it's like I'm not going to get the chance to see them. But like, I'm glad I saw Sacramento when I did because it's gone. It was gone in a week. I think Wallace Island has 2 showings. It'll leave this week too. The Shrouds, I'm sure, is not going to last more than a week. That crowd I watched at 4:30 in the afternoon. Yeah, they were all hyped.
And I was gonna ask, so you don't have any experience with the Cronenberg body horror like The Fly or Videodrome or Scanners or anything like dude, Cosmopolis.
Yeah, I love Cosmo. Again, it's not that I dislike Cronenberg. It's just what I've seen so far is very, very miss and very minor hit. Because I love Cosmopolis. I really do, a lot. And I enjoyed Crash. But that might be the end. Well,
Really,
history of violence. But then after that, it just kind of gets murky.
you know what I'd be really curious to pair with the Shrouds is The Brood. Because the Shrouds was made while he was like grieving who was his current wife.
Mm-hmm.
And The Brood is about him like angrily divorcing his previous wife.
The Brood also has a review on here. It's a versus.
Yeah, I think it's is that the one with Shivers and Rabbit? Yeah, I did Shivers, Rabbit, and The Brood all together.
Yes, it is. We
And
did.
I did Brandon's trilogy along with it.
Yeah, we've covered Cronenberg pretty much almost completely on this channel.
Quite a bit.
It's weird you mention The Fly because I always forget about that one. It's always one that I feel like I should have seen, but I never have.
That's crazy. I'd be really curious how you feel about it.
Scanners and Videodrome are the same way. The Scanners brings me back to Wayne's World. Other than that, I don't really know anything about Scanners.
I'm sure there's a scene in Scanners you know about, but other than that. Actually, I feel like that's most people, actually. People know about the head explosion in Scanners, but you ask them anything else about the movie, they probably don't know. I barely remember what else was in Scanners.
says the
No, there's
only
a
thing
lot
I
of
remember Ravid for is the bit where the person's in the pool and everybody just basically goes in the pool and like envelops the person, and that's the ending. It's like, okay.
No, my theater is interesting because obviously I'm at a Disney theater, so it's like it's packed, but the stuff I'm watching is not busy. So that makes me feel even better. Until Dawn was busy and Sinners was busy because it's got a lot of word of mouth. But I knew the Shrouds wasn't going to have anybody, and if Thunderbolts will be packed. And I feel like the Nick Cage fans will come out for Surfer next week.
I would love to see a Nicolas Cage movie in a theater packed with Nicolas Cage fans, like when the Alamo did the thing.
Mm-hmm.
They did like their Cage marathon, and then there was like that fourth year they did it where he actually showed up and booked it himself and watched with the audience, and then did that Q&A afterwards.
Kind of like Shia, but not crazy.
That Q&A and that Q&A at the end of it, and then before the marathon, he did a cold reading of The Telltale Heart. Both of those are on YouTube, and I highly recommend you seek them out.
No, the idea of a Q&A combined with a theatrical screening is very moot point with me right now, so please do not bring it up. I'm very butthurt about that. Luckily, I found a way to rectify it, hopefully.
Well, this was like a 4 or 5 movie thing, so this was like a whole, yeah.
But the movie's coming out theatrically in June, so I'm going to get to see it in the theater again. I just don't get to have the fun stuff with it, sadly.
Well, that's kind of fascinating. The bloody Den of Thieves sequel is on Netflix, except in the UK where it's exclusively on Amazon Prime. I don't think they even bothered with a cinema release. They just shoved it on Amazon Prime. So, unsurprisingly, it's the number one streamed thing I think on Amazon at the minute, just because it's the usual churn through the new content deal that they have.
You've got Spencer stuff to go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spencer's put some stuff in. Yeah, Sinners did well, only dropping apparently 6%.
It's good.
Mentioning Night Swim was a short film first, just like Lights Out.
Yeah, Lights Out
was
actually good.
They've worked better as short films.
Accurate.
Companion was great.
Yeah, one of the better movies of the year. I can't say one of the best movies of the year now, but it's one of the best horror movies of the year for sure.
I really enjoyed Swim Fans versus Great Work.
I forgot about that one. I think I did it with Fear.
Yes, you did.
Favorite Canadian horror movie? Ooh.
Is Tucker and Dale considered Canadian?
Is it?
I thought it was, but I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. Now I said that out loud.
I just watched a Canadian
Tusk.
movie. I don't remember which one.
Tusk. Tusk is my answer.
Principal photography was in Calgary, so I guess Tucker and Dale would classify that way.
I mean, I know Tusk was filmed in Canada, but I don't know if it was. It's not. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. In terms of the other way around, South Korea made a remake of Tucker and Dale versus Evil that came out last year.
Black Christmas is Canadian.
I was gonna say I just searched Canadian horror movies, and the first thing I see is Black Christmas. It's like, oh, that might be the answer. I see Prom Night 2 is here as well.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with Black Christmas. Not the original.
Yeah, that would have to be, like, I don't want to seem like I'm just jumping on one because it's the first one I saw. It's fucking Black Christmas.
And it's funny because I'm looking at Google because that's what I do, and it's bringing up Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm.
Shivers, Rabid, The Brood, Scanners, all things we've talked about in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, wait a minute.
I forgot about Pontypool. Because I thought with the name, I thought was Welsh.
Skinamarink too, which was really successful a few years ago.
Pontypool, the zombie thing told for a radio station is actually a very nice thing.
Top 10 Canadian.
Very low budget,
Ah,
but like
and Violent Nature is Canadian. That makes sense. Take that any way you want. I don't care. I don't know why. It just makes sense in my head.
Spencer says Soderbergh, seriously the best director we have today in my opinion. Presence, Emily the Criminal, Black Bag, everything slaps.
I never saw Emily the Criminal, but I love both Presence and Black Bag.
He didn't direct Only the Criminal. Did he like produce it or something?
That sounds right.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, I gotta say his Netflix era especially is really underrated. And his, I guess, are we calling this his iPhone era?
That's a good way to put it.
Emily the Criminal isn't even listed in Soderbergh's, unless he exec produced rather than produced.
I actually wasn't big on Emily the Criminal, unfortunately, but
Dear Lord, this is... What the hell is Soderbergh doing? This is going all over the place. So he's doing an American black comedy called The Christophers, written by Ed Solomon, who obviously did Men in Black and Now You See Me and Bill and Ted from back in the day. But also Super Mario Brothers, the original one, so who knows?
Why?
But it's got Michaela Cole, Ian McKellen and Jessica Gunning, but also James Corden.
I don't
I'm
see.
like,
maybe Soderbergh can actually get something out of him. Maybe.
I don't see anything for Soderbergh when it comes to Emily the Criminal at all. I'm looking into this deeply. I'm curious now.
Ian McKellen in the Soderbergh movie. That to me is the more astounding than Corden, to be fair.
Although I'm seeing that's where our lead from Drop came from.
Yeah.
What's that?
He was in Emily the Criminal.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then there was also those...
Maybe I wanted to like more than I did.
There was those TV things that he did a year or so back. Was it Full Circle? And then... Oh, Michael Cera in Command Z. Although admittedly that was a web series. Josie's saying, funny enough, speaking of intermissions, when I watched Rosewood on Tuesday, I had to flip the disc to watch the second half.
Nice.
What is your one Scorsese movie you will defend? Mine is Kundan and Bringing Out the Dead. And for Spielberg, it's 1941. Whoa.
What, defend a movie that everybody else doesn't?
Maybe. Well, it depends on the circles you're in.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's people that really don't dig Cape Fear.
I don't know how.
Yeah, I can't relate to those people. So if you count that, that's probably what I'd say.
No. Well, I won't defend. No, I won't defend it, so that's not gonna work.
I'm tempted.
I feel like Shudder.
I'm tempted to say Silence, to be fair.
I didn't like Silence, so I couldn't defend that movie.
I think Shutter Island went through a phase where it was seen as lesser Scorsese, but I think its reputation has come back around.
There's nothing on this list that's... There's nothing bad at all. I don't... I mean, I don't like silence, but
I'll defend the length of Killers of the Flower Moon if I have to.
I will defend the length of The Irishman,
Yes, very much so.
and
Yeah,
that's me. That's me talking.
Yeah, the Irishman has a big fan base, but I feel like I'm defending it a lot. Between the length and the de-aging and all that, none of which means shit to me when it comes to that movie. I love everything about that movie.
I don't love the fact that the only person on this panel that's seen it theatrically is Ashley,
Which one?
The Irishman.
Oh God, yeah. The bit where practically everybody was looking at their watches 30 minutes in, and then realizing they still had 3 hours left. It was a
Yeah,
good, it was a good
that's the thing too
experience,
is
to be fair, because it was, I mean that was when they actually bothered to show London Film Festival stuff at cinema screens nearby, rather than you got to travel this far for whatever.
it's it's also funny to me that so many people complain about like The Irishman being one of those movies where it's like, oh my God, there's still an hour left after all this, and it's like the last hour of The Irishman is the best hour of the movie. And I love the whole thing.
I
Everything from the hit on Hoffa, where he goes through the whole thing of like he and Pesci parking at the airport, him getting on the plane, doing the whole thing, getting the ride from Clemens and doing that whole dialogue, and then doing the hit and then going back. And then like everybody dying of old age and him having to come to terms with mortality and the fact that he's never going to make up with his daughter and the loneliness when he when he when he's told like your lawyer died and he's like what happened, who hit him, and it's like dude, he died of old age. It's, it's like that whole last hour he has to buy his own casket from fucking Action Bronson.
To some
That
extent,
whole last hour is incredible.
I feel a lot of people overlook Hugo.
They shouldn't.
Because I think there's a lot of people that think it's basically his kid's film. Just because it's basically one of the only things he's done that is a PG rated sort of thing. But that being such a love letter to the art of cinema and filmmaking like it is,
I love Hugo.
it's really good. But I just feel some people forget about it.
I think the only thing that gives it the vibe of a kids movie are that kids are the main characters, and I guess Sacha Baron Cohen's character is kind of bumbling in a kids movie kind of way. Everything else is quite mature about that movie, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like what Del Toro's Pinocchio.
Yeah.
That's a very mature telling of the thing, but
I,
if you look at everything, I think the only other PG, at least in terms of UK release, might be King of Comedy. But I wouldn't say that was, something that's suitable for children.
Yeah, it's 70s PG.
Yeah. I don't think it's been reclassified here yet. Somehow.
I actually have it right here. Let me double check that. Well, yeah, it only says PG. That's interesting. It doesn't feel like a PG movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that, I mean, even though nothing drastic happens, it's got a consistently like dark tone.
Oh, and added in here, he says for Spielberg, he would have 1941 as the one that he defends.
That's a good answer because I hate 1941. So, I would say, well, here's the thing about Spielberg and technically defending things is it's not that War of the Worlds needs defended because people do love that movie. But a thought I feel like I have to defend sometimes is that I think War of the Worlds might be one of my favorite movies.
Mhm.
And that's something where people are like, "Oh, whoa, that's a lot for that." But I also think make make of this what you will. My brother and I actually did a video on it, but mentioning it here as well. It might be controversial. I think a lot of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull hate is people following the leader. Is that controversial?
Not really.
I wouldn't say so.
I don't think it. I don't think it's that bad. Come on.
My question is, how was Always? Because that's the first that I remember. First I found out that this existed, considering it came
I'm-
out the same year as Last Crusade.
I have a different viewpoint of Always because Always was my grandma's favorite movie.
I
Mm-hmm.
see.
So I'm used to it being held in high regard, but I don't know how like regular people feel. But another thing I was gonna bring up was a lot of Spielberg's recent output, like Ready Player One, is a movie that I really love. I get why people don't like it, and I've heard like, have I heard that the book is, as far as people that the reason people don't like Ready Player One, that the book is worse about it, rather than it being a worse version of the book. I don't know. I've heard so many different things about that, but that's something. Ready Player One is something that I will get behind.
Same.
I'll also defend his Tintin thing.
Yeah, Tintin was
Because a
good.
lot of people sort of crapped on that, as, because there's a lot of love for the sort of original art style and those sort of like TV movies or whatever you want to call them from like the 90s and whatever. And I think it probably wouldn't be looked on as badly if the sequels actually happened and hadn't fallen into development hell like they did. If you actually got the ones afterwards, I don't think it'd be sort of, dismissed as much.
I also love that it's a common thing to people don't have to defend Hook from each other. They have to defend Hook from what Spielberg himself has said about it.
Sounds about right.
I think the critics weren't kind to it at the time either, but that's just really. I'd really like to know what I would think of Hook if I saw it for the first time now. Because even though it was one of those beloved movies that I saw 200 times as a kid, let alone how many times I've seen it since, which is still several, um, I just can't imagine there not being all positivity surrounding that movie. Like, I can't tell you what doesn't work about it. Except that stupid song that they only put in there so it could get nominated. And
I got a new
I
copy
feel like
of Pacific.
Spielberg.
Oh God. Go ahead with Spielberg stuff. I hate you.
I was just gonna say, I think Spielberg fits that question more than Scorsese. I think Spielberg has a lot more movies that people need to defend or in need of defense.
Spencer got a new copy of Pacific Heights. Yay, 1,000th watch coming this week.
Dear God.
I love Carrie Coon and Tracy Letts' Evo for movies. That's a relationship I hope survives forever, and his love for film, and the same with her. She's already had the majority of the closet movies. Or movies you would take in the Criterion closet if you had the option. I'd have to get an entire list because there's too many for me to like. Is that in? Is that not in? Like,
It would be stuff. What would we take if we were in the Criterion closet? Is that what it is?
yeah, basically.
For me, it probably mostly be stuff I haven't seen. One in particular that people keep taking that I've always wanted to see and still haven't is Loves of a Blonde. And The Fireman's Ball, for that matter. That kind of Milos Forman double is something I still need to really do. Fucking Jacques Tati box set that everybody takes. I still need that.
I was trying to see if there was anything that sort of lists what there is. Which
I wouldn't mind the Godzilla box set. That would be cool to have.
so if I go to like shop the collection, it will pretty much just be anything and everything. It's like, as I say, it'll be interesting to see like it's always interesting as to seeing something that you'd have thought would have been in the Criterion collection that's only just getting added. And I can only tell that when I look at the numbers. If it's something in the 12 to 1300s, I know it's new. If it's anything else, I know it's a re-release. Spencer says Unfaithful with Diane Lane should have got the Oscar and be in the Criterion closet.
That's another movie theater story from back in the day.
Does Adrian Lyne have anything in there yet? It feels like he should.
How's Lolita not in there?
It seems like it would be. And even some of his more mainstream stuff, like Jacob's Ladder, I'm kind of surprised isn't. That seems like something that would be. I know he has more movies than the list I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, I can't really see.
Maybe he doesn't.
I don't see anything.
I marathoned his movie, and I felt like this list was a lot longer.
There's something with Jacob's Ladder, and then it mentions Criterion Collection, but
That's not helpful at all.
yeah, I don't see. The annoying thing is when I search it, it's like traffic. Like, no, that's a soda. So I want to say no. And Spencer says libeled lady and Dodsworth a movie club. I don't know. Depends what comes up. I feel bad for wanting to punch Charlie Day. I just think he brings out the worst in me for some reason. That's a bit harsh. Then again, I guess we haven't seen a lot of him in movie stuff because he's always busy with It's Always Sunny.
I'm pretty sure this is not the first time he's lashed out at Charlie Day.
No.
Oh, but he's gonna be in. He is gonna be a voice in Travis Knight's new Leica movie. Apparently.
Oh.
So we'll see how that goes. Same with Justin Long, Andrew Dominic, and Jack Audiard.
Did you say Justin Long and then say?
Yeah. So yeah, he wants to punch Charlie Day, Justin Long, Andrew Dominic, and Jack Audiard, but not necessarily in that order.
Huh.
Spencer also saying much love for the death sentence versus law-abiding citizen versus. We love it in my house, and we love Jared Butler handling shit. If you want to see Jared Butler handling shit, what was the fucking film with fucking Jennifer Aniston. That was shit.
Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, that was it.
We went crazy for Law Abiding Citizen when it came out. I still have that giant banner somewhere. Um, and when we talked about it, and everybody, Death Sentence is definitely the one of those two movies that I like to go back to more often now. Something about Law Abiding, I don't know if it was like there's really annoying discourse around Law Abiding Citizen. And there's this whole fake story that Reddit started where Jamie Foxx himself had the ending changed, and people have been spreading that shit for years, and the whole movie just annoys me now because of those people. It's so tainted at this point. But and people that want, I mean, do we go down this rabbit hole? We are like 2 hours into this video, but there is a time in that movie where you can cheer for Butler, and there is a time in that movie where you fucking stop cheering for Butler. There is a time and a place to root for his character, and it's not the entire movie.
Yeah, it's not
If I remember correctly, I haven't even watched the fucking movie, and I don't know how long, but that's the way I remember it.
Yeah, it's not. I was gonna say the closest to that would probably be Falling Down.
Yeah, another movie that gets totally misconstrued.
Yeah.
It's like, did you forget about the part where he was dangerous to his wife, and there was a reason she wouldn't let him near the house?
Yeah. Yeah, right, at first you sort of, understand his plea, but then more when you understand it, it sort of is a case of maybe Robert Duvall's a point, as we discussed in Movie Club. So.
And yeah, it's especially now I can understand people rooting for characters like Butler and All About Citizen, especially when we are like more powerless than ever. It feels like, but once again, that's a rabbit hole that we can pivot away from.
Oh, Josie mentions I should have included Calvin Candy in my Remick face-off. Right, so have I got Bry stuff to go, or...?
I got some Josie... Actually, I'll split it up a bit. So, we're going to end with... It looks like we're going to end with Josie's game, the adaptation game, and Brian's regular game.
Mm-hmm.
So let me do some Josie stuff here. Josie, first time watches since last time that she wants to highlight Mr. Noise Guy from '96, Clay Pigeons, A Moment of Innocence, The Emerald Forest, Out of Time, Goddess of 1967, Shallow Grave, Lonely Hearts, Grandma's Boy. Ironic, given the fact that I got to see Nick Swardson live this past weekend.
Is that Carl Franklin's Out of Time she just mentioned?
That would be 2003.
Did I mention recently that I've watched Out of Time like 3 times in the last few months?
No.
I got on this Carl. Well, I was on like a Denzel kick after Gladiator 2, and then I think I just put Pluto on one day, and there it was again. And I was like, all right, okay. And it's like this movie is actually like really like it came and went in 2003. I remember when it was out. I remember the standee we had for it. And then it just came and went. But then after I saw that second time, I was like, I'm kind of on a Carl Franklin kick here. I think I want to get. I got the Criterion for Devil in a Blue Dress. I rewatched One False Move, and so I ended up watching Out of Time like 3 times in a short amount of time. And it's the most random fucking movie, but it's really really fun though.
Iron Monkey, Loose, Dragons Forever, Frailty, Don't Be a Menace to South Central by Drinking Your Juice in the Hood, Rosewood, Went the Day Well, George Washington, Welcome to the Terror Dome. Happy birthday to Matt Reeves, Sally Hawkins, Austin Emilio from Hitman, and the late Sandy Dennis. Tomorrow, we wish happy birthday to Penelope Cruz, Eileen Walsh, an Irish actress, Tony Revolori, Anne Margaret, and the late Lionel Barrymore and Bruce Kirby.
George Washington is heavy. Just like literally just her saying the name of that movie, I feel a little more depressed than I did 5 seconds ago.
She saw Sinners, pretty excellent, such a delicious film. One of my faves of the year so far. My top three are that, The Day the Earth Blew Up, and Black Bag. The best movie of the year is on line one to talk to you, Josie, immediately. But I am really wanting to see The Day the Earth Blew Up, but it just didn't work. It was way too much stuff out at the same time, and I did not have a chance to see it. I wanted to. For some reason, I can picture Jack O'Connell's character in Sinners doing karaoke to Jimmy Buffett.
No.
So, speaking of Sinners, we have a Remick face-off. So, we mentioned Remick versus some of the very interesting heel characters from film. Remick and Hans Gruber, Biff Tannen, Casanova Frankenstein.
Well, these are all human characters he's up against.
Yeah.
Are we talking about
Morton Joe.
Vampire versions of them, maybe?
No, this is what it says.
Okay.
Dementus and Furiosa, Zorg from The Fifth Element, Mark Ruffalo from Mickey 17, Killmonger. Of course, it's not a conversation unless we don't bring up Mr. Melancholy. Good old Coconut Pete and Near Dark. Rest in peace, Bill Paxton.
There's another vampire, okay.
Early prediction for the Palm is Renoir, a Japanese film directed by Hayakawa.
I was thinking Renoir or the secret agent. I almost said the station agent.
Favorite pillow scene in a movie? We're looking at the pillow fight and the hot chick and the throw pillows and Along Came Polly.
Was there one in 13 Going on 30, or were they just dancing on the bed? They had pillow fight energy.
I feel like they did have a pillow fight when they were dancing on the bed.
I want to say The Godfather. Because I think it's the blood on the pillow first before you get the reveal of the head under the sheet.
Yeah. That makes sense. One thing that stood out to me in George Washington was the helmet. Because of that, I wanted to ask about favorite cinematic helmets, besides Vader, of course. Shredder.
Yeah, I was getting a little too literal. I was gonna say Matthew Modine's. It says "Born to Kill" but has the peace symbol on it.
That's fair. I'll give that. That's very literal. I appreciate that one.
Shredder's a really good answer.
Shredder's a great answer. Ashley, do you have an answer before we move forward?
I'll probably get back to it at some point. So
that's fair. That's what happens when we're 2 hours into a show. If we're talking IP, what about a Mr. Clean movie? Mr. Clean becomes a janitor somewhere, but where would he do custodial work? School, office building, a theme park, a hospital, an airport? Which of these settings would you want to see him work at the most? And a follow-up, how about Mr. Clean and Snuggle team up? I'd love to see them pull a Walmart or a Target heist and steal all the cleaning products. Who would play Mr. Clean? And if they're that desperate to make movies based on cleaning products, how about a Brawny Man movie?
I feel like we got the Mr. Clean movie. It was called Food Fight. The amount of times that he showed up in that bloody film. When he isn't even an important character. Like, dear God. Tell us about the product
Is
placement.
either Mark Vincent,
Uh,
the correct answer is Mark Vincent or Tom Hardy by way of Bronson.
I think I know where Josie's mind is at. Because, in case you weren't aware, the very first episode of the studio is centered around Bryan Cranston's big producer wanting to make a movie in the style of Barbie, but he wants to have the success of Barbie by using a previous IP, so he wants to make a movie about the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, that's fair.
That's what the first episode. By the way, they build up that his character's name. He's the big producer at the top of everything. His character's name is Griffin Mill, which was Tim Robbins in The Player.
Yeah.
And they built him up. And I love Bryan Cranston. I love Bryan Cranston in the show. I've never been more disappointed to see Bryan Cranston when I thought they actually got Tim Robbins.
You watch him show up later on in the series.
Yeah, I guess it's just an ode rather than being the actual character, because the player was a clear inspiration for the show itself.
Okay.
oh God, the fact that the last few episodes of the Golden Globes and CinemaCon, it's like, oh God, where the hell is this going? It'll be fun.
Very exciting.
I have the Josie adaptation game in a minute, but first, I feel that there is. Oh yeah, we have something else in chat, Ashley.
At the bottom.
Yes,
Oh.
which I can't read because the captain is in the way, and the captain does not feel like moving right now.
Bako Rakora, who I know who it is. The official backstory for Mr. Clean is he worked for a sanitarium after doing a stint with the Navy. Apparently, this is not a joke.
This sounds like a Poonaverse movie.
Yeah, this is.
The Popeye one?
Isn't there like a Peter Pan one now that's just come out recently or something?
Yeah, I need to watch that review when I get done with the podcast. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, guess what I saw on the recommended screen when I switched over to the Popcast chat?
Oh, God.
So yeah, Bryce Oscar's game. Original score of the 2010s, which he's spreading it out a bit for 2018 and 19. He's also going to bring in the short list of what didn't get in and what you might replace it with. Because, of course, since 2018, that's when they started doing short lists for score and song. So for 2010, we have The Social Network, How to Train Your Dragon, Inception, The King's Speech in 127 hours. Dear God.
I know people have a hard on for How to Train Your Dragon. I know Inception is iconic, even though what's really iconic about the Inception score isn't even Zimmer.
Mm-mm.
They made the right choice, and I will fight anybody that says otherwise.
Wait,
Yeah, it's the Social Network.
You're telling me The Honk isn't a Hans Zimmer deal?
Isn't that part of is the piece called Time Heist?
I believe so. If not, it's not something like that.
No.
And that's by what's his name, Zach something. I can't remember his name now.
It's not an easy thing.
The trailer music is not Zimmer. Yeah.
No, I'm talking. I'm not talking about the trailer stuff. I'm talking about what is it? Dream is collapsing. That one that is. I played it that much in 20 whatever that it's on my Spotify top plays of that year. And that isn't like, and that's what, and keep in mind, they only go back to sort of like 2016, 2017. So for some reason, I was really, maybe it's because I was just, it might have been like 18 or 19 when I was hyping up for Tenet because of what Tenet was seemingly appearing to be like, maybe.
I never saw Tenet.
But yeah, Dream is Collapsing is the one I'm thinking of.
Hmm.
That's where I think of the honks because you know. And then even in I can't remember if it's. I think it's Waiting for a Train, or maybe Dream Within a Dream, which is like really sort of like melancholy. It's sort of Gladiator esque. And then for the last 2 minutes, because it's building to the bit where they've got to get out of the dreams before they all die, sort of thing. You know, when you get the dream with, when the dream crashes into the dream and that ending bit, all of a sudden it goes from like the nice sort of gentle melancholic stuff to like we get into
That's
the
right.
end. Bry's pick is Inception for that one. But no, I'd say Social Network as well. But that's a bloody good list of soundtracks, to be fair.
Well, one's kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, but I know I'm in the minority about that.
For 2011, The Artist, The Adventures of Tintin, Hugo, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, or Warhorse, with Bry saying Artist deservedly winning.
I've heard that soundtrack so many times.
What was that animated alien movie that the Weinstein Company put out right after The Artist that has an artist joke in it that plays that music and he does the coat thing?
Was it Monsters versus Aliens?
Yeah, it was like a really under the radar animated movie that nobody saw.
We did. And I remember
Escape,
we're the only one that got the reference.
was it called Escape from Planet Earth?
It's something like that.
Yeah, they had just put out The Artist and then they just put out that movie, and that animated kids movie about aliens has a random artist reference in it.
Yeah, it's definitely Escape from Planet Earth.
I'm just looking at the list.
And I feel like you like have to say the artist is one of those ones where it's like I feel like you have to say it.
I mean, the correct answer is The Artist, but the only other one I would, on that list that I would even consider would be Hugo, because I love the soundtrack for Hugo.
I wish I could remember Tintin's more, but I really can't. I'm sure it's
Tintin would probably be in consideration if I could remember it.
yeah.
But I hated Warhorse, and I wasn't a Tinker Tailor guy, so.
The only music I remember about Tinker Tailor is that version of Beyond the Sea that plays at the end.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember if that even came out over here, Escape from Planet Earth, because I don't recognise the poster.
It probably didn't go very
Considering
far.
Ricky Gervais was in it, it probably did get shown in cinemas, even though he's barely in it. I might go with Warhorse on that one, because like most of the Tinker Tailor stuff I remember from that is the licensed songs, which wouldn't be score. For 2012, Life of Pi, Anna Karenina, Argo, Lincoln, or Skyfall.
Oh, man.
Skyfall is tempting, but I think they made the right call. There's tracks of Life of Pi I listen to by themselves, and I don't do that extremely often for like relatively recent scores.
Life of Pi's right, but I love Argo. Everyone knows that. And Lincoln is a solid soundtrack as well.
I don't remember Argo's score. It's got a really busy needle drop soundtrack. I don't remember a score.
I like that type of music sometimes, especially in categories like this where it gives me another chance to give it a win in an award season. But yeah, Life of Pi is just fantastic. Another movie we watched in Athens.
I'd give it to Life of Pi, but I really the Skyfall soundtrack is just very well done. It's a shame that sort of Spectre sort of ruined it to some extent because A lot of Spectre just felt like Newman just using the same stuff he did for Skyfall rather than trying to do anything else. Whereas if you look at a lot of Barry's soundscapes, he didn't really try and do the same thing over and over again. Hell, the fucking 007 track from Russia with Love, when they reprise it in, I think, Thunderball and then You Only Live Twice, he really does them in like three different manners. So they don't actually sound just like, oh, it's that shit again. Basically. Uh, 2013. Gravity, The Book Thief, Her, Philomena, or Saving Mr. Banks.
Well, definitely Gravity for sure.
Um, honestly, I love the score so much. I'm gonna have to go with it because obviously this is just our preferences when it comes to what we like the most. I'm gonna go with Saving Mr. Banks. I love the score.
Yeah,
It's so physical and it's just like it makes me feel good.
I realize surface level Gravity probably seems obvious because the rest of those scores are kind of I know hers score is especially acclaimed,
Her is great.
but and Gravity's just like really loud, but it's like as much as is going on to make a movie like Gravity, I feel like the score is doing a lot of the work for the impact of that movie. Like without that particular score, Gravity isn't what it is, even with the Sandra Bullock performance and the effects and the editing, even really.
Every time you just heard the, like, oh fuck, things are about to go bad.
I admittedly never liked Gravity, so I never really went with it like most people did.
2014. Grand Budapest Hotel, The Imitation Game, Interstellar, Mr. Turner, or The Theory of Everything. Bryce saying, my pick, The Grand Budapest Hotel, definitely an iconic win, especially that gave Desplat his first Oscar, even though he technically lost to himself because of The Imitation Game. Yeah, Grand Budapest score is amazing.
Okay. I've been a massive champion for Grand Budapest since it came out, as we all have.
Sure.
I still think it's still my favorite Anderson to this day, which is a high bar.
It's so tough for me to try to figure out one I like the most.
And Interstellar doesn't move me in the way it moves a lot of people. With that said, I would go Interstellar here. I know, again, I'm going big over the rest, but that one did feel, maybe it's just the organ, I don't know, but it did feel like, because Zimmer was in a place where it was like, in a post-Inception place where it's like, you could spot him from a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was in a very similar sort of place. And that one felt like, even though you can still very much tell it's him, that it went in a different direction in a way that I was really unexpected and like operatic in a way that it needed to be without being like overblown. And the oh god, what's the piece called when they're docking? Of course. Oh fuck, what is that piece called? That's driving me insane. Is it No Time for something?
Let's have a quick check.
Oh god damn it.
Afraid of Time, Running Out.
We can
No
move
Time
on.
for Caution.
I can figure it out.
There's
Yes, that's it.
No time. Oh, that's on the deluxe edition. That's the extra CD. That's what I was getting confused. Although apparently it's on the Illuminated Star Projection edition, it's a hidden track right at the end as well. Yet on the vinyl edition, it's just there front and center. The hell? Hans, why are you doing too many different versions of your soundtracks? 2015. The Hateful Eight, Bridge of Spies, Carol, Sicario, or Force Awakens?
Hateful Eight, obviously.
Morricone.
Yeah.
I am going to say the Hateful Eight, but Sicario has the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really tough competition. But I am saying the Hateful Eight, but Sicario is like...
And also as well, that melody in Carol that you just kept hearing over and over again like an earworm is a nice piece.
It's so... It's still, like, unbelievable how early we lost Johan Johansson
Mm-hmm.
and what all could have been.
For 2016, La La Land, Jackie, Lion, Moonlight, or Passengers?
I'm not going to say La La Land.
I am. And the only other answer I would give other than La La Land is Lion.
I was leaning Lion. And Moonlight.
Moonlight's fine.
Yeah, to me it was between, not to bring up any war wounds, but La La Land and Moonlight. I'd certainly edge it to La La Land because it's, for somebody that isn't a great fan of musicals, the fact that I saw that 4 times, just because of how good it was. Pasek and Paul, right? Doing the tracks.
It was the literal soundtrack of my life for a long amount of time. I mean, might as well. I don't think I have it here, but I can't reach it, but it's over there. But I got to see La La Land in concert. One of the things that they started doing was showing movies with live orchestras. And I remember seeing it right when I first moved here. So seeing La La Land with a full orchestra in the place where my life would change later on in life was just phenomenal. If you get a chance to see one of these shows, it's totally worth every penny you pay for it. They do it with Star Wars, they do it with Potter, they do it with Batman. There's so many ones they've done. And the only one I've able to go to was La La Land, and it was incredible.
Uh, 2017. The Shape of Water, Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, Star Wars Last Jedi, or 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri?
This is a tough one because I don't remember the 3 Billboards soundtrack very well, but I feel like in this list, it's the only thing that would challenge Shape of Water.
Well, Bryce
I
says
remember,
my pick would be Phantom Thread just for the opening.
Phantom Thread's a good one too.
Yeah, I love the piece that I remember most in 3 Billboards is Billboards on Fire, which is enough to win.
That's
but
fair.
As soon as you said it, it was like I'm gonna say Phantom Thread. I think.
I'd edge it to Shape of Water, but yeah, Phantom Thread had some good score work in it. Okay, so this is sort of split into 2 parts. So first, the actual nominees. Black Panther, Black Klansman, If Bill Street Could Talk, Isle of Dogs, and Mary Poppins Returns.
Well, Blood and Soil alone gives Black Klansman the edge, I think.
I don't know.
And
Maybe because it's repetition of hearing it so often in the score. But Bratell's work on And Beale Street is really good. I think that was my pick if we did them then. I can't remember.
I can't judge this one because I haven't seen most of the things that are well. I haven't seen a few of the things that are listed. I've definitely not seen most of the short list movies at all. I've seen none of the short list movies except for Avengers.
Well, I've got a Poppins bias.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
He
Which
likes
if you were
Mary
here
Poppins,
before,
y'all.
if you were here before I redecorated, I wouldn't have even had to say that. So I mean, in my heart, I'm dying to say Mary Poppins, but Blood and Soil and that last piece during when it goes into present day at the end of Black Klansman, that piece as well, like just elevates the whole thing. I have to say Black Klansman.
Black Klansman's my answer on this one too.
Black Panther's a great winner too, by the way, but Klansman is, yeah.
All right.
So yeah, the ones from the short list, which are some of the best, and which would you replace? So the short list that didn't make it has Avengers: Infinity War, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Crazy Rich Asians, Death of Stalin, Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald, First Man: A Quiet Place, Ready Player One, and Vice.
Ready Player One and Vice.
Vice, that piece that plays throughout Vice, that's so fucking sinister. That I'm surprised. I actually keep forgetting that Vice didn't make it.
Bry would say Vice and First Man for the short list, and Mary Poppins Returns for the five. And then to 2019, Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker.
Well, the right answer is Joker. And I would have. Well, obviously, in 1917 doesn't belong anywhere on this list, especially compared to the short list. Weirdly enough, I like most of the things on the short list more than most of the things that actually got nominated. Ford versus Ferrari sound is phenomenal.
Rise of Skywalker's there though, but just because John Williams. Out of the modern trilogy, if you want to call it that, I feel it's the weakest of the three.
Oh yeah, by far.
And it sucks that JoJo didn't make it. Ford versus Ferrari is the correct answer out of this lineup.
Yeah, so the short list is just for clarification because Bryce put it, and then also just so AJ's aware. So yeah, Avengers Endgame, which I'd probably put in. Bombshell, The Farewell, 4v Ferrari, yeah. Frozen 2, JoJo, yeah. The King, Motherless Brooklyn, Pain and Glory, and Us.
I got 5 on it, man. That song is a slow burn version. I got 5 on it from Us. Is just
again, that isn't scored.
Still, music's just stuck in my head.
Yeah. No, but Us has got good music for the atmosphere.
Oh,
Weirdly
God,
enough,
yes.
that's one of the things I remember from Motherless Brooklyn.
See, that's the thing we did.
I completely forgot that bloody Bruce Willis was in that.
When we did our Us house that year at Horror Nights, it was one of the things that was really heavy on the house in the location was the atmosphere, the music, the sound, and it's just really good atmospheric vibe music to get you prepared for what is about to happen. And speaking of that, I cannot wait for him. Even though technically speaking, it's not Jordan Peele's directed movie, but yes. Definitely looking forward to this movie.
The piece in Us that I still think about that really got under my skin is when it's when they get to the beach at the beginning. Is really eerie in this confronting way when the bad shit hasn't happened yet.
says, where is it? Bry's pick would be Rise of Skywalker of the nominees. Doesn't go list the shortlist stuff. So the next Oscars game is going to be interesting because we're not doing text. The idea is, given that we're sort of halfway through the seasons, we're obviously covering what 2020 through 24. It'll be what's the best Oscar winner in each of the 23 categories in the decade so far.
Okay.
I like this.
So obviously we will be bringing up Redacted and Redacted for your respective years.
I really
In a fair
things
few of the
belong to
categories.
that
So.
list.
Or in both of those years individually, redacted.
Yeah.
Well, at least we can like narrow it down easier those years. It's like for 2024, well, 5 are out of contention.
Yes,
Wouldn't it be like what, 7?
probably more than that.
Something like that.
Josie gets the last word tonight.
We're right at a crisp 2.5 hours. We're almost at a good
saying
number.
to me that I need to clear out the DVDs. I have far too many. Tell me when Netflix and all these other streaming things actually bother to include special features on their streaming releases. Because if they don't, yeah, I'm keeping them, thanks.
Okay, so, and one is not, because when I went through my emails today, I found something that Josie had sent me for March 23rd, and I wanted to bring it up tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So this is only a few. It is what she refers to as the rom-com pairing game. So basically, she mentions an actor and an actress, and their zodiac sign, and then a concept for a film with them together. And then we've got the regular adaptation from the book to the film, and that's how we're going to take it home tonight. Okay. All right, so we have our Aries and Leo, which is Brian Tyree Henry and Lily Gladstone. They make friends in a grief and trauma support group. He is a survivor of a house fire, and she recently left an abusive relationship.
This feels like it exists.
Not on this network, it don't.
I can see it very vividly.
Well, you're not going to see this very vividly. David Howard Thornton and Kristen Milioti.
Nope, can't see it.
That's our Sagittarius and Leo. David Howard Thornton. That might become very topical in about a month. I guess you'll have to wait and see what I mean by that. They're participants in a mental institution theater group. Art the Clown and Sophia from the Penguin falling in love and pretending to murder people. They overcome their psychotic ways through the power of art. Yes, pun intended.
Art
Yes.
Can Art overcome his ways when I don't even think he's human?
Well, we're not talking. It's not obviously art. It's just the concept.
Okay.
So we have our Leo and our Aquarius, which is Austin Butler and Amy Lou Wood. Best friends working at a hospital together. He's a radiology technologist, and she works with medical records.
That's a hot couple.
We're about to get to another one. Libra and Sagittarius. The It Man himself, Glenn Powell. And Alana Haim. They're friends in the same swim workout group. Intriguing. Cancer and Scorpio, Jacob Elordi and Raffi Cassidy. Best friends since childhood. They spend time at a community garden together planting a tree. That checks out. And our Cancer, Sagittarius / Scorpio, Tom Burke and Renee Reinsev. His character's daughter is a special needs student of her character, and he falls in love with his daughter's teacher. Interesting.
I can't see Ronaldo Rensva as a desirable teacher.
So that is the new the new hotness for the day, to quote Will Smith. So needless to say, we're going to take it home with our book adaptation to film. So Josie has summaries from Amazon and Goodreads. You can pick a studio, their awards potential, which of course I don't think we've gone to before, and we're going to name the top 3 as if it were a film festival. So starting with Safe Harbor, which is by Padma Venkatraman, adapted by Walter Sales. All right, let's get into my voice here. When Geetha and her mom move from India to Rhode Island after her parents' divorce, they leave everything Geetha loves behind. Family, friends, her dog, all that's familiar. If that's not hard enough, Geetha is bullied at her new school for her clothes, food, and her English. Who knew so many English words could be spelled or pronounced differently in the US, or just be altogether different? Finding solace in playing her flute and writing poetry, and even more when she meets Miguel, a kid who she has a lot in common with. The two help them rescue an injured harp seal stranded on the beach. But Geetha can feel her anger building over lots of things: careless people who pollute the sea and hurt animals, and her mom for making her move. She's never been so sad and angry. She can see a lot of her fears mirrored in the injured seal when she visits it at the Marine Mammal Rehabilitation Center. This broadens her understanding of survival skills. When she and Miguel start a beach cleanup venture, she's surprised to find out how many kind kids there are out there. Torn as the time comes to let the seal go, knowing she'll miss him, but wanting the best, she learns to live with mixed feelings and accept that while there always will be rough waters, there are plenty of safe harbors too. I think I've heard that book before, actually. I think it's been brought up on here before. Nemo Sham and His Bus, Lee Isaac Chung. In this warm, joyful picture book, highly recommended by Debbie Reese, children learn Cree, a Native American tribe, from Nemo Sham, their school bus driver. Based on the author's memories of her grandfather, Nemo Sham is not your average bus driver. He loves to drive the school bus, tell silly stories, and share his language with the kids who ride his bus. Nemo Sham and His Bus introduces readers to common Cree words and phrases alongside the common childhood experience of riding the school bus. A Cree word list is included in the back of the book. With Just One Wing by Brenda Woods, adapted by Barry Jenkins. Everyone expects Coop to be musical like his beloved parents, but he's not. That's one of the few things he finds awkward about being adopted. Well, that and the fact that he sometimes wonders why his birth mother didn't love him enough to keep him. This summer, he's stuck at home with a broken arm after falling out of a tree trying to get a closer peek at a mockingbird nest. Later, when the eggs in the nest have hatched and the fledglings take away, he and his friend Zondi notice that one of them stays behind. Taking a closer look, they realize the bird has only one wing. Since it won't survive in the wild, they adopt it and name it Hop. Learn everything they can about birds so they can care for Hop properly. Unfortunately, though, when a hawk injures Hop, the vet says it's illegal to keep mockingbirds as pets. Faced with a difficult decision about surrendering his beloved little bird to a bird sanctuary, Coop starts thinking about his birth mother's motivation in a new light. Redbird Dance by Don Quigley, adapted by L. Maja Tailfeathers. With lyrical verse and powerful emotion, Don Quigley tells the story of urban native kids who find strength and connection with those who came before, in the hope that lets them take flight. Ariel and Tama have lived in the city's intertribal housing complex all their lives, but for both of them, this Dagwagon season, which is autumn, is different than any before. From his bench outside the front door of his building, Tama watches his community move around him. He's better at making people laugh than he is at schoolwork, but often feels like it's his neighbor, Ariel, is the only one who really sees him, even in her sadness. Ariel has always danced ballet because of her auntie Bingxing, and loves the way dance makes her feet hover above the ground like a bird. But ever since Auntie went missing, Ariel's dancing doesn't feel like flying. The seasons change and the cold of winter gives way to spring's promise. Ariel and Tama begin to change too as they learn to share the rhythms and stories they carry within themselves. The Courage of the Little Hummingbird, I'm sensing a pattern, by Leah Henderson, adapted by Gintz Zobolotis from Flow. When a disastrous forest fire threatens the great forest, the hummingbird must inspire all the animals to work together to save their homes. Credits. Scribbleville by Peter Holwitz, adapted by Richard Linklater, in Retroscope, of course. Rotoscope, take a shot. Living in a world filled with scribbles and squiggly lines, the residents fall into a state of chaos when a stick-straight newcomer arrives and builds a perfectly square house in their community. Yet the intriguing nature of after he meets the new neighbor reveals to them all a very special secret. A Slip of a Girl by Patricia Riley Giff, adapted by Colm Barad from The Quiet Girl. For Anna, the family farm has always been home. Now things are changing. Anna's mother has died, and her older siblings have immigrated, leaving Anna and her father to care for a young sister with special needs. And though their family worked this land for years, they're in danger of losing it as poor crop yields leave them without any money to pay their rent. When a violent encounter with the Lord's rent collector results in Anna and her father's arrest, all seems lost. But Anna does see her chance and bolts from the jailhouse. On the run, she must rely on her own inner strength to protect her sister and try to find a way to save her family. Zulu Dog by Anton Ferreira, adapted by Matty Diop from Dahomey. An honest and compassionate look at a post-apartheid South Africa, Vusi, an 11-year-old Zulu boy growing up in poverty in rural South Africa, is enchanted by the helpless puppy he finds in the bush. He names it Gillette for its razor-sharp teeth and hides it from his mother, disapproving of bush dogs as pets. But his devotion to Gillette only grows stronger after the puppy is mauled by a leopard and loses a leg. As boy and dog play carefree games, storm clouds are gathering over Vusi's family, a ruthless rival taxi owner trying to drive his father out of business. While Vusi and Gillette learn to hunt together, they meet the daughter of a neighboring white farmer. Gillette becomes a catalyst for their unlikely friendship, having a decisive impact on the fate of Vusi's old family and the larger community. A starkly realistic story set against the backdrop of the country's tortured racial history, Zulu Dog holds out the hope that a new generation of South Africans can create a better future for their land. The Good Deed Contest, based on Why Did the Underwear Cross the Road by Gordon Corman. Adapted by Greg Matola. Fourth grader Justin Zeckendorf has tons of ideas for scoring the most points in the Good Deed Contest, especially since the prize is a trip to the Tidal Wave Water Park. But his problem is his team. Jessica Xander and Margaret Zachary are two of the drippiest girls on the planet, and Justin's crazy plans always seem to backfire, earning the team negative points. Louis Sachar's Someday Angeline, adapted by Jesse Eisenberg. Nobody understands why Angeline is so smart. She could read the first time she picked up a book, can play the piano without ever having a lesson, even knows what the weather is going to be. But being smart causes Angeline nothing but trouble. The mean kids at school call her a freak, her teacher finds her troublesome, and even her own father doesn't know what to do with an 8-year-old girl who seems to be a genius. Angeline doesn't want to be a genius or a freak. She just wants the chance to be herself and to be happy. But it's only when she makes friends with a boy the kids call Goon and the teacher they call Mr. Bone, helping out with the school fish tank and aquarium, that Angeline gets that chance. Grounded for All Eternity by Darcy Marks, adapted by Sam Raimi. A group of kids, excuse me, interesting. A group of kids from hell come to Earth on one of the craziest nights of the year, Halloween, in this entertaining, high-octane, middle-grade adventure about teamwork, friendship, shattering expectations, and understanding the world or other world around us. Malachi and his friends are just your regular average kids from hell. Suburbs, that is, not the fiery pit part. But when hell's bells ring out, signaling the soul has escaped from one of the eternal circles, Mal and his friends can't help but take the opportunity for a little adventure. Before they know it, they've somehow slipped through the veil and found themselves in the middle of Salem, Massachusetts on Halloween. And what's even worse, they've managed to bring the escaped soul with them. As the essence of one of history's greatest manipulators gains power by shifting the balance on Earth, Mao and his squad mates, along with some new friends they meet along the way, work desperately to trap the escapee, save the people of Earth from forces of evil, and find the portal back to their own dimension. If they can't manage it before their parents realize they're gone, they'll be grounded for an eternity, and an eternity in hell is a very, very long time. Noah's Ark. Victoria Williamson, adapted by Philip Barantini. Nora Day lives in temporary accommodation, relies on food banks for dinner, and doesn't have a mom. But she's happy enough with her dad and a mini zoo of rescued wildlife to care for. Adam Sinclair lives with his parents in a nice house with a private tutor and everything he could ever want. But his life isn't perfect. Far from it. He's stuck at home recovering from cancer with an overprotective mom and no friends. When a nest of baby birds brings them together as an animal rescue team, Adam and Nora discover they're not so different after all. Can they solve the mystery of Nora's missing mother together? Can their teamwork save the zoo of rescued animals from the rising flood? Good Little Devil by Pierre Grappari, adapted by Wes Anderson. Here we go. There once was a good little devil. Did you read that right? Yeah, you did. Not a wicked little devil, but a good one. And boy, was he in a fix. Instead of doing bad things like forgetting his homework and playing tricks on his teachers, this little devil kept trying to be good. Doing all his homework, sometimes he even enjoyed it. He was never rude and even encouraged sinners to say sorry. His parents were at their wits' end, so the little devil struck out on his own. On his quest to learn to be good, our little devil meets all kinds of people, priests to police, and from the Pope in Rome to little Jesus himself. But will the angels let a little red devil with black horns in heaven? Given that Asteroid City is sort of like an afterlife movie, I can see Anderson tackling this. Yes. I do have for home. Urena Jan Glazer, adapted by Ryan Coogler. A triumphant tale of friendship, healing, and the power of believing in ourselves, told from the perspective of biracial sixth graders June and Tyrell, two children living in a homeless shelter. As their friendship grows over a shared love of classical music, June and Tyrell confront a new housing policy, putting homeless families in danger. It's June's first day at Huey House, and if losing her home weren't enough, she also can't bring her cherished Viola inside. But before the accident last year, her dad saved tip money for a year to buy her Viola, and she's not about to give it up now. Terrell has been at Huey House for 3 years and gives June a glimpse of the good things about living there. Friendship, hot meals, classical musician living next door. Can he and June work together to oppose the government? Or will families be forced out of Huey House before they're ready? Thank you again, Josie.
Would say the one by the Quiet Girl director seems like a pretty perfect pairing. The Eisenberg, of course, and the just completely out of curiosity, I'd want to see Raimi do whatever the fuck that thing was.
Yeah, the Raimi thing jumps out at me too. I mean, I'd be like not me at all if I didn't go with Wes Anderson, because I think that just reading it out loud, I can imagine it in my head. So
the Flow one fits as well. If you wanted
the Flow
to
one's
do,
really good, yeah, for sure.
if you wanted to do something in the same vein that doesn't need any sort of English language to explain it.
Yeah, good stuff. All right.
Yeah,
That might be the end of it.
Chat, so that's your lot.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the outro, Owen?
Yes. AJ has a ton of movie reviews coming soon, and I mean a ton. Like, I think there's at least 3 or 4 in the very near future. 5.
One I'm probably going to shoot like pretty shortly after we end here. That's gonna have we've been doing 3 movies at a time. A couple of these are going to have 4 because so much is. I would say I'm behind, but I'm not extremely behind. Just a lot is coming out at once.
That's why I haven't seen as much as I could have lately. So yeah, that's going to be like every other day, or maybe like every third day potentially. I know that our anniversary is coming up on the 1st, and we'll be 12 years in. So I would say for the month of May, and I'm going to say this now, and you can hold my feet to the fire about this if you'd like, because unless something drastic happens this week, I don't really have anything bad to say right now. I will say that you're going to get a lot more content. AJ content will be coming out very rapidly. Ashley content will pop back up. My content's coming back. So AJ has a ton of reviews to come your way. So all the 2025 movies that you're wanting to hear him talk about, chances are you're going to get what you want real soon. Ashley can be found on X at Ash is my name UK, which of course more gaming content, various other snack stashes, other Ashley content forthcoming in the near future. I would say once we get into May, everything is going to be kind of like slow down a little bit. So we're probably going to go back to a little bit more regular content. I know I've said this before, but given the fact that we are celebrating the literal anniversary of Popcast Network on the 1st of May, I feel that I owe it to you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. X, or whatever you want to call it, take a shot. That's going to be at Sir Owen Disney. I have Snack Stats, take a shot. I have Sip and Snack. I have musical content. I've got lots of things coming. Voices content, water parks at the end of July, so get ready for that one. A lot of videos that are put out for certain days for certain reasons. If you know, you know. And I got a lot of things to be excited about for the future. And yeah, I will probably elaborate at the end of next month. So that's your show. Thank you to Josie. Thank you to Spencer. Thank you to Brian. I saw Bakura popped in for a sec, so thank you again. Anybody that's watching on our archive and not watching live, thank you again for checking out the show, whether you chimed in for like 5 minutes or you stuck it out for 3.5 hours. Thank you again. And also, we'll be back at the end of next month for another Popcast Network Hangout. I would state that in the future we'll have another movie club with AJ, Chris, and Ashley, but I don't know when that's going to be, so more information forthcoming about that. That's your show. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget to always have the best day ever. And in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching. And until next time, boys and girls, say hi to the captain. That's all we got to say about that. Taylor, there you go. There you go.